I do think often if an investigation is non-public, it can be easier because the witnesses might not be as spooked by seeing their names in the newspaper, or we're able to reach out to them without 20 reporters calling them at the same time. But once an investigation does become public, or we're investigating an issue that was public before we started investigating it, there can be a lot of very smart, motivated, interested people who are looking at the same issue we are. So instead of fighting it, I've learned, and this is something I think Ted Wells did back when I was working with him, and I've done since then, we're trying to acquire certain evidence. If TMZ ends up acquiring it and putting it on their website, then we suddenly have access to something we had wanted that we weren't able to get. Or if there's a very bright sports fan who does an analysis of baseball games and they identify certain games where this issue was more prevalent than others, then I'll say, oh, that's interesting. Let's look at those games. Or there may be people who are witnesses to certain events who identify themselves on social media. So we try to work within it, and there is a lot you have to sort out, and there's a lot of misinformation that you just have to kind of let go. But I think there can be a lot of useful resources, especially when you have really smart, motivated reporters and fans who are engaged, like I was back in law school when I was just doing all of this work on my own. You have a lot of people doing that, so they may look at it from a different angle too. And one thing I always try to make sure of in our investigations is that we're getting it from all angles and we're not just looking at it from a singular perspective. So sometimes hearing those other voices, I think, can be helpful because you identify potential criticisms and you figure out ways to address them before you get to the conclusion.